theme. The Bible comes alive in a wholly new way, I have found. This is a theme I plan to explore in much greater detail someday. Well, not anymore.
Oh, this is the guy that died?
Yeah. That is a theme I plan to explore in much greater detail someday. In the meantime, it is particularly important to remember that the Bible book was never written in any normal modern sense. From the beginning, they were preserved in memory only. They made up the body of what is known as the great oral tradition, a set of ritual formulas, ceremonial rites, great oral tradition, a set of ritual formulas. I'm doubling back. Am I not? Seems to be. Ritual formulas, ceremonial rites, allegorical tradition, a set of
depictions of truth.
Allegorical depictions
of truth, myths,
Yeah.
number graphs, and pictorial symbols of the realities and the phenomena of human spiritual history that had been handed down from generation to generation in unwritten form. Only here and there, chiefly to avoid their being lost, forgotten, or too badly corrupted by change, they were set down in writing, and so at last came to later ages as books, presumably written or edited and revised by somebody. Kuhn says, and he documents this thoroughly, that once written, they became subject to the usual human proclivities of tampering, altering, and religious skullduggery of many kinds.
Oh yeah, those editors and redactors.
Oh yeah. Oh well, we can make this better.
And there was no oversight.
That they met with the treatment not only is admitted by historians of Christianity in its early stages, as we have seen, but is boasted of by the scribes and some of the church fathers, who thus resorted to unholy means to achieve holy ends. I quote again for emphasis a letter from St. Gregory Nazianzen.
That guy.
Yeah, one of the most respected theologians of the early centuries, to his close friend St. Jerome, in which he said, quote, "Nothing can impose better on the people than verbiage. The less they understand, the more they admire. Our fathers and doctors have often said not what they thought, but that to which circumstances and necessity forced them." It really changes our understanding profoundly to realize that the books of the Bible were never written in the modern understanding of literary authorship. They were largely the final deposits on vellum or papyrus of formulas acted out and retold down through the ages. They were often direct transcriptions of the lines recited by actors in the great mystery plays of the ancient religions. Not only are former Bible riddles solved when we reach this new understanding, but the texts make sense as never before. Take, for example, that well-known gospel incident of Jesus walking on water and stilling a storm. If you see this not as some supernatural trick, but as a powerful symbolic representation of the Christ within, calming the troubled ocean of our inner fears and instilling a sense of peace, you are released from the intellectual impossibility of believing in a God-man who defies gravity and is wholly beyond our emulation today. If we see the various miraculous healings as a dramatic, mythical reference to the healing power of the Christ within each one of us, and if we see such otherwise incomprehensible and magical events, such as the feeding of thousands by multiplying bread or turning water into wine, as symbolizing God's gift to each of us of the divine energies by which we live and grow, the passages hit home in an entirely new way. As Kuhn says, the Gospels are the story of our souls. Quote, the birth, the awakening of intellectual power at age 12, the temptation or stress of conflict between the body and the soul, the development of the soul's divine potency to heal the ills and weaknesses of the flesh, the overcoming and casting out of the demonic forces of the natural man by the Christ's influence, the symbolic raising of the dead inert spiritual power to a new birth of life. The whole experience of the soul under the long domination of the animal instinct being itself the essence of crucifixion on the cross of matter. The final victory in the soul's radiant transfiguration of the mortal man by the Spirit's light, the ultimate the ultimate resurrection of the soul out of its death under the suffocating heaviness of the life of sense. There's no doubt that this utterly transforms our entire understanding of the ancient text. There is indeed then a potent wisdom in the Bible, hidden though it is necessary in its necessary imagery that bites on our personal and communal lives today as nothing else can do.
You want to be closer? Doesn't have much.
There, that's it. That's as good as we can get, I think.
Chair's getting hard.
I'll do one more and then I'd like to stop.
Okay.
This is number 2. Inspires fresh hope for a cosmic faith. All the research done for this book has helped me bring to my faith a fully spiritual comprehension of what was once bogged down in utterly outmoded creedal and other accumulations. I really believe that applying the truths so clearly revealed by our study means that the original, more truly spiritual Christianity of the first 2 centuries can be recovered. For the first time, something I have been searching for all my adult life, namely a basis for universal cosmic Christianity, has been rendered a possibility. The view of faith outlined here is one that knows no boundaries of sect or creed because it is based on the universal truth of the light that lighteth every person coming into the world. It belongs to all, regardless of ethnicity, color, or clime. Significantly, it applies to the millions of humans who were born and died long before Christianity as a religion was ever thought of. It belongs to the now and to the future as well. Whatever the defenders of orthodoxy have to say, and I'm well aware it will be plenty, they cannot deny that the literalist, exclusivist Christianism held by the majority of churches, our church and our view of Jesus remain the only way, is extremely divisive and will never lead to the solidarity of all humanity. It remains a serious source of global disharmony and at times vicious open conflict. The theologian Hans Kuhn has said repeatedly that there will never be global peace until there is harmony between the world's great religions, especially Islam and Christianity. But this will never happen while Christians claim to hold a monopoly on divine truth. I'm not pleading here for one totally homogeneous faith to replace the current religious pluralism. Not at all. Rather, I'm urging the adoption of a profound unifying basis to transcend the divisive outlook that so often accompanies our traditional differences. As the poet W.H. Auden has warned us, we must either learn to love or die. Using the words, the Christ is important for would-be Christians. But if other religions use other terms, Atman, spirit, soul, and higher self, we must realize they're still speaking of the same inner reality.
Mm-hmm.
As Kuhn says in his most recent book, A Rebirth of Christianity, quote, if Christianity will now recognize that the time has come to join with the other great living religious traditions, and direct its vision to the reawakening of the divine spirit, the Christos in man, it may yet vindicate its right to call its message the true religion of humanity. End quote. If you recognize the divine presence in another person, you cannot harm him or suffer your brother to endure injustice. The words of Northrop Frye, whom I quoted near the beginning of our exploration, resonate with fresh power for the now. Just before his death, he wrote, quote, I think immense change could be brought about by a Christianity that was no longer crippled by notions of heresy, infallibility, or exclusiveness of a kind that should be totally renounced and not rationalized to the slightest degree. Such a Christianity might represent the age of the Spirit. That's the new vision. Yeah.
What does Atman mean?
Atman. That's an Eastern Indian or term for a level of divinity.
Oh, okay.
Brahman, Brahma, Atman.
And yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
they use a variety of names. Let's go one more. It's shorter. Number 3 clarifies the ancient symbols. For the first time for me, a spiritual and mystical understanding of the Christ myth has made powerfully relevant the whole doctrine of the cross, the crucifixion, and the resurrection of the Christ. All the old business about blood and sacrifice and suffering gods fully comes into focus and grasps hold of both mind and heart. The love of God is seen more clearly than ever in the sacrifice or constant outpouring of his divine nature to secure our share in it forever. The mythical, allegorical meaning of the passion of Jesus Christ as an enactment of God's role in our creation and our incarnation is embodied fragments of deity, is far more profound than some imagined transaction where God's wrath is nullified by the literal death of an only son.
What do you
Well, think about it. Years ago, I reduced it down to this. I love my son with all my being.
So I'm gonna
My
kill him.
one and only son. Kill him, and I'll forgive all your sins. That's insanity.
Dumb.
Insanity.
Yes.
Absolute insanity.
Uh-huh.
But
Yeah.
they came up with that. It's not the truth. But we've lived with that kind of fallacy for so long.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is insane.
I haven't because it never made sense to me.
And those hymns like the one about the blood, what is it? Something in the blood. I heard that in a church once. I had to be in some
Power in
kind.
the blood.
Oh, just awful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's not for that. Clarifies the ancient symbols. For the first time for me, a spiritual and mystical understanding of the Christ myth has made powerfully relevant the whole doctrine of the cross, the crucifixion, the resurrection of the Christ. All the old business about blood and sacrifice and suffering gods finally comes into focus and grasps hold of both mind and heart. The love of God is seen more clearly than ever in the sacrifice or constant outpouring of his divine nature. See, that's the sacrifice is the giving of itself, constant outpouring of its divine nature to secure our share in it forever. The mythical allegorical meaning of the passion of Jesus Christ as an enactment of God's role in our creation and our incarnation as embodied fragments of deity is far more profound than some imagined transaction where God's wrath is nullified by the literal death of an only son. The above point leads to my renewed awareness of the power and the symbolism of the Eucharist itself. It is no longer a crude, barbarous echo of some kind of cannibalistic rite, nor is it purely polite symbolic recalling of a 2,000-year-old event. It graphically and powerfully offers an immediate experience of inwardly feeding upon the facts that the divine has poured out its energies and life as our spiritual bread and drink. And it is a dramatic experience of remembering, in the sense of bringing back together all the various fragments of the body of God. It is a potent symbol of the restoration of the whole family of humanity as the child of God. And Charles Fillmore, when he wrote the papers that he gave people if they wanted to join Unity Church Universal, which is what he had founded in I've forgotten the date now. I can't remember. It's 20s or 30s. I think it was 20s. But in those documents that he would hand people, it talked about the need for all of Christianity to understand all of the elements of Christianity in their true meaning, not in some of the weird and strange things, but that they all have real meaning, and it is for us to understand what they mean, rather than have some kind of false idea of what they mean. The church has taught us an awful lot of garbage. Thank you. Yeah, garbage. Yeah, I almost said trash, but garbage is better. It's really true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. They want to hear garbage, so we'll give them garbage. Yeah.
That's all they're gonna understand anyway. Like, everybody was stupid.
Do you suppose that the other religions, Islam, for instance, is the same
Yeah.
and teaches in the same manner to keep control of the
Their
people?
Christ figure was a human being,
Mhm.
and it's all about the history, and they do things to reenact the history of whatever.
And the Buddha,
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah, the radicals of Islam, same as the radicals of Christianity. They use it
Yeah.
as an excuse to murder, war.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no, they
And
do
I'm
that.
sure probably in every religion, there are some who see it for what it really is.
Yeah.
And there are some who see it as a big story
Mhm.
that is totally unreal.
There's a woman rabbi in California
Mm.
who would teach out of the Quran and to interpret it the way it was meant.
Mhm.
And she was just so clear on it It's been a long time since I've heard her now, or what her name is.
Was she a Kabbalist by any chance?
She's a rabbi.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so there are a lot of women, like you were talking about this morning of Sarah Hale.
Yeah.
There are a lot of women behind this true understanding. And of course, since women were so put down and not allowed to be in leadership in the churches and all of that, it just kind of percolated under there. And once in a while it comes through.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was a fantastic lady.
Yeah.
Apparently she never accepted that. Well, you can't do that. You're a woman.
Mhm.
You can't be an editor. Nobody. There's never been an editor in the United States ever.
Well, some of the women writers,
Well, there is now.
white writers and composers wrote under a
Pseudonym, yeah.
yeah, under a fictitious name so that nobody knew they were a woman.
Yeah.
Because what they wrote would be discounted.
Mm-hmm.
Put a man's name on it, and oh, this is real stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now we can get started.
You look at all the New Thought churches, except for religious science, which was men, were women.
Yeah,
Mary Baker Eddy, the ones that did divine science,
yeah.
was several women.
Nona Brooks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and if it wasn't for Myrtle, the Unity would have been all Charles.
Well, we almost burned down the administration building when Marvin Anderson said, "Oh, Myrtle was just a side issue."
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
We went,
gosh.
"Roar."
Oh,
my.
gee, many
He never
Christmas.
said anything stupid like that again.
Oh,
I
gosh.
don't know who he is, but my God, what a
He was an intellectual.
Idiot.
I mean, she's the one that got Charles started.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep. She's the founder of Unity in my
yeah,
thinking.
She's the
And,
one that heard the
Charles
truth.
watched,
yeah.
and then he was number 2.
Mm-hmm.
And
Which
then
talks
since
about the feminine and the intellect. The
Yeah.
feminine comes first, the intellect comes second.
and then he took charge of running the place.
Yeah.
But she was, I like to think of her as the heart
Mm-hmm.
of Unity and him as the intellect of Unity.
And
Mhm.
Rosemary and Charles, the heart and the intellect, a businessman, and
Yeah.
Rosemary was
Yeah.
the,
Rosemary should have been our president.
yeah.
But
Or
he
at
would
least-
never allow that.
At least there should have been more of an influence of her
Yeah.
there because she knew.
Yeah, well, you knew that at one time he said, "I will ordain you, but you must leave here,"
Yeah,
and she did.
and she did.
Yeah,
And she started the Myrtle Fillmore Chapel. Well, Rosemary did.
yeah, the Myrtle Fillmore,
Yeah.
church.
Yeah. So,
Who said that?
Charles R.
Charles R.
Fillmore.
Who's that?
Yeah,
Charles R. Fillmore,
that was the grandson, great grandson.
grandson. Yeah.
Yeah,
His, Rosemary was his sister. She was a granddaughter. And I've got Rosemary's book on That's Just How My Spirit Travels.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And she says, I was born at Unity Village and my grandfather said I was to never marry. I was going to be the goddess of Unity Village. No, she says, not for me. I had curlers in my hair and I was looking at all the boys.
yeah. She was my friend. I love
Yeah.
Rosemary.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time with
Absolutely
Rosemary.
loved her. I remember when I was teaching one of the classes on Unity history, and I invited her to come to the class. So I stepped out of the front and let her be up front, and they were asking her questions. And somebody asked the question, "What do you think of the direction Unity is taking?"
Whoops.
And she turned and looked at me
Yeah.
and just stared for a moment. Then she went back and said, "I don't like it." And they know I don't like it. Yeah.
And just recently, they stopped using the name Silent Unity.
Oh,
It's the Unity Prayer Ministry now.
Oh, 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 oh.
Hopefully
oh.
they still answer the prayer phone, Silent Unity,
Huh.
but they don't call it Silent Unity anymore.
But that's the first step towards hell.
Yeah, that's the first step toward just stepping out of the original divine energy into the crap that goes on in the world.
Over a century, they've built that name up and the power of that name, and now they're throwing it
And it
away.
has drawn in people from everywhere,
Exactly.
all religions over halfway around the world.
Yep.
Yeah, there's this
They're fools,
there's this incredible
absolute fools.
divine energy in those words that has just grown and grown.
Hmm.
And I thought, okay,
Sometime in the past, I've had the same kind of conversation because this kind of thing of dropping an important title like that at Unity. And somebody just raised all kinds of heck over that because it was insane. And that's an insane motion. That it's like they're trying to fail.
it's just been in this last year, and the people who are in charge have no idea what
They
it
do
is.
not know.
They don't know.
Have
Yeah.
you seen the new Unity magazine? Since they bought this other magazine?
No, I haven't seen that.
I've got 2 copies that Esther brought in. They're in my office somewhere. I put them
Yeah.
on the desk.
Did you recognize Unity in it, or?
Not at all.
I know way back when Mother handed me a copy of Daily Word, and she said, "Jackie, read this. I think you'll like it."
Yeah.
And then I started listening to the Judases on the radio. And then I went to, I guess, a service somewhere, and I thought, that's not what they were telling us. And there was I needed money, and out of the blue, they wanted to know if I would do opinions for money. And I went to this thing, and
Carolyn George.
yeah, Carolyn George said, "You need to go to 9th and Tracy. That's still the real Unity." So,
She ruined your life right then and there, huh?
yeah.
One student came down here, and on the way out, she said to me, "Oh, this is old Unity, isn't it?" And I said, "Dear, this is real Unity."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's funny they don't know they don't know what Unity is out there.
I know.
And that's been the process over
Yeah. It's
decades.
It's just been eroded little by little.
Yeah. And now it's just a big sinkhole.
That's why Mary Baker Eddy wrote everything down. You follow what I write,
Yeah.
and don't deviate from it. That is.
Because eventually, if you don't have the right people, if you don't have people with vision and spiritual consciousness, this is what you get.
She wrote everything down, but she couldn't keep the churches from being empty.
That's right.
Yeah. One of the issues, of course, is I don't see spiritual growth, new understanding. In other words, they don't have ministers because there's no purpose for them.
Right.
They don't have people who on Sunday are enlarging and increasing the message.
Yeah, but they're
There's
not
no-
ruining either.
She made it safe so they wouldn't ruin it, but they didn't also grow it. And that's been a problem. Because how many years, when you go to service and over the year, it's the same service.
Oh, yeah, it is. I know.
The cycle of the year, the cycle of the year, the cycle of the year. And I think it kind of gets a little...
Well, if you really work on it, you understand something you didn't understand before.
Yeah, it's like reading Lessons in Truth the second or third time,
Mm-hmm.
you always see something that you did not hear before.
Right.
May I go one more?
Yeah.
Number 4. Underlines the dangers of literalism. Once the literalist approach to the Gospels and the rest of the Bible has been seen for the great blunder it has been, boy, they're going to hate this book. They really are. Some places remains today the pernicious habit of targeting specific groups and lacerating them by quoting proof texts loses all of its presumed authority. Most of the atrocities committed by the church and its more rabid followers, I like that, rabid followers, down through the ages have been directly inspired by literalist thinking. The lies, for example, behind all the anti-Jewish bigotry. I've had people ask, why do people hate Jews?
Yeah.
I don't understand it. I
don't
really
either.
don't.
I went to Paseo High School, and I would say 30% of the people at Paseo were Jewish.
Yeah.
And I had a problem in that my last name, my maiden name is Steen. And Jewish boys would ask me out, and I'd say, I don't care, but your parents might care. I am not Jewish.
Yeah.
And they always backed off. I mean,
I spent a week 2 times with a room full of Jews in studying Kabbalah and around high holy days. These people were wonderful.
oh yeah,
I made wonderful friends.
definitely.
When Carolyn died,
Mm-hmm.
one of them, who was her teacher and mine,
Mm-hmm.
he flew here and was here for her memorial service.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How wonderful was that?
Yes, definitely.
And of course, not being Jewish, I had to learn stuff
Yes.
when I was in the service, and I had both events. I had somebody who was willing to come over and sit with me and teach me what I had to do and what the process was.
Mm-hmm.
And the more it was wonderful stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I love the things that they do. They will stand up and doing some prayer text. They take 3 steps forward and they do the prayer stuff, and then they take 3 steps back, stepping into Jerusalem
Uh-huh.
and doing the prayer, and then back to where we started. It's wonderful symbolism.
Yes.
Just wonderful.
Yeah.
And my Hebrew got to be pretty good during that time. Yeah.
Something besides hallelujah.
Yeah. Where did
Where were you?
anti-Jewish bigotry and hatred that so tragically marked the history of Christianity almost from its inception, and that culminated in the Holocaust. The church did not kill 6 million Jews, obviously,
No.
but centuries of a literal reading of the Passion narratives, especially the words in Matthew, "His blood be upon us and our children," and the anti-Jewish teachings of a continuous train of Christian theologians down to and including Martin Luther himself, made it possible for the Holocaust to occur. Even at present, hatred toward Jews, homosexuals, Muslims, and others is still being encouraged in some quarters by extreme biblical literalists. The biblical exposition given here, I repeat, utterly destroys the dangerous fundamentalist exegesis once and for all. We will never have peace on earth as long as literalism controls religions. As Origen, the vigorous foe of literalism, rightly said so long ago, quote, very many mistakes have been made interpreting Scripture because the right method of examining the holy texts has not been discovered by the greater number of readers. Wow. There's some wonderful stuff in this book.
Excellent.
I am so grateful
Yes.
that I found this.
Yes.
As I think I've told you, the first book I read of Tom Harpur's was because of Bishop William.
Mm-hmm.
He said, have you read this book? I said, no. He said, I think you would like it, so I ordered it. And now I have almost every book he wrote, and they're wonderful, just wonderful.
Somebody encouraged me to buy Ernest Holmes' textbook.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, have you read it? And she says, no. So I had this book on my shelf, and I started reading it, and I thought, well, this is nice. Why doesn't somebody teach it? You know, but I didn't catch on for
Yeah.
a long time.
There's nothing wrong with Holmes' material.
No.
The thing I find is it's missing Myrtle. It's intellectual to me,
Yeah.
but where's the heart?
And a
Where's-
lot of it was written by Fenwick Holmes.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the businessman, he was the writer and so forth. Ernest was the mystic.
Uh-huh.
And I met Fenwick Holmes.
Uh-huh.
He came to our little religious science church in Shaker Heights, Ohio.
Mhm.
And he came up to here on my arm. He was about 5'1",
Gosh.
little man with a leonine head of white hair.
Mm-hmm.
And when he stood on that platform and started to speak, he got larger and larger. and
I've seen that
larger.
happen.
And just seeing the light fill the platform, you just sworn he was 7 feet tall.
Gosh.
It's amazing.
Yes.
Martha Judici used to do that when she got angry.
Yeah.
She,
That's a different kind of energy. Yeah,
I swear she would blow up.
we used to call her the galleon in full sail.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
She was a terrific metaphysician.
Mm-hmm.
She grew up only in New Thought.
Mm.
She never, her family, they were not ever traditional Christians.
Mm-hmm.
They were New Thought. And so she never got indoctrinated in that other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
God bless her.
yeah,
I will make some more number 10s.
yeah,
And
okay.
yeah, that's what you need also for me to give you a copy for mine.
Mine.
Yeah, I'll make some more. I'll make
Yeah.
enough, and because I'll make enough for all of you because some of you just have
She's got one.
one page.
one
You've
page.
got one page.
Yeah.
How did I do that? My
Well,
God.
it just got
Well,
cut.
I'm thinking maybe you made them copies because they weren't gonna be here.
I wouldn't make one page copy.
No, I
No,
mean,
no,
the
no.
complete thing.
No, I really believe that I had enough for the class. And
Well, maybe the
I
machine,
must have been having.
the machine might have hiccuped.
I think I hiccup. Yeah,
Yeah,
I do that. You know. I think it was
Yeah,
yesterday. I had to print the bulletin twice.
I ran into something this week that astonished me. My father's name is George Muller. My brother's name is
And
George
you-
Muller. And my grandfather was George Muller, and the great-grandfather was George Muller. And I was reading William James' book, and here was a footnote where he was quoting George Muller, and I thought, who the heck was
Which
that?
one?
I thought, there's none of that in my family, but it was George Muller. And so I looked it up on Amazon, and I found this book. It was only about $7, The Spiritual Secrets of George Muller. And he was in the middle 1800s. He was not only a minister in some churches, but he set up 5 or 6 orphanages around London and so forth. He served 1,000 children.
Oh, my.
And he never asked for or accepted money. And he said everything was always provided for 1,000 children.
Wow.
He said, when I
Gosh.
first sat down to read the Bible, he said, I put the Bible on the chair and I got down on my knees and I prayed and asked how to read this. And so as I start, I haven't got too far in the book, but as I read some of his, he's talking about this very kind of thing. And it was the universe that had to lead me to the book by putting my father's name in big blue letters on the front. But it was just amazing to me what that led me to, and also the prosperity teaching. That he didn't want to accept funds because he didn't want anybody getting power over what he was doing.
Mm.
And
How did your family spell Muller?
Muller.
No dots above the.
Yeah, this man had umlauts over the U, but it's not MUE, it's MU, and all of this was MU.
Yeah.
And I've run into people, Robert Mueller, who was the head of World Organization, the United Nations. That was Robert Mueller.
My great aunt, I talk about Aunt Nettie once in a while, and she married George, they said Miller, but it was Muelleo.
Mueller.
Yeah.
It was Mueller, like Fuller.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had
But it
a,
was just interesting what led me to that. Got nothing to do with my father, or his
Yeah.
father, or his father. But most of the George Mullers I've heard about are professionals. They have doctoral degrees. They're highly educated people. And some are Swiss, not necessarily German. But what a prosperity lesson I got out of that one.
yeah.
Otto Arne was Swiss, was he not?
I don't know.
I was told that he wasn't born in Switzerland, but he was
There.
that the name was Swiss. Oh, I'm sorry about the cough. It just tickles, and I need to go grab something to suck on.
I got one if you want.
I've got some.
Got them right here? Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
So whose is this?
I think that's yours.
Mine's on the floor. But this is the one that was complete, and mine isn't.
Oh, that's
that's-
Bud. Bud passed that over to you.
Okay, so,
And this is yours.
I put it down when it was ready.
but you already had one, right?
For what we were doing, it was.
I have